Whoa, whoa, whoa. Before you go tweeting that, I think we should stop and ask ourselves a better question. Why is Oregon so white? Only 2% of Oregon's population identifies as black. Have you ever wondered why? Let's start from the beginning. In 1830, we promptly gave the Kalapuya smallpox and malaria, killing 90% of the population. Their land was then efficiently manifest destined away from them by white pioneers, taking advantage of the Land Donation Act of 1843 that gave land to exclusively white settlers. Once white pioneers legally established themselves in Oregon, exclusion laws were put in place, like a lash law, which made it illegal for any black person to be in the state of Oregon or else they get lashed. This law was put in place by this guy, this fun-looking guy, Peter Burnett, who also became governor of California. The exclusion laws also prohibited blacks from owning land and making contracts. If you came to Oregon with a slave, you had to free them in 3 years. So basically, people who owned slaves in Oregon. It was just frowned upon. You might be asking yourself, what does this have to do with OSU? My campus is beautiful. Well, let's take a quick tour. Here we have Avery Lodge. Avery Lodge, named after Joseph Avery, whose name has strong ties to the Occidental Messenger, a pro-slavery newspaper. Benton Hall, named after Thomas Benton, an advocate of westward expansion and white supremacy, was also at one point the governor of Missouri. Surprise! Fast forward to 1940, here's an excerpt from the yearbook. Oh look, the Glee Club. It looks like there's some nice, young, upstanding men. Wait, what is that? Tracey, can you zoom in on that? That's what they're doing. Well, that's not very good at all. Besides all this racism in the air, Carrie Halsell graduated from OSU in 1926. It took 2 whole decades before another black student even graduated from OSU. But William Tebow followed in Halsell's footsteps and stuck it out. Even though African American students are now technically tolerated on campus, there was still racism and prejudice. On March 5th, 1969, 47 black students walked off campus in solidarity with Fred Milton, a football player who was subject to racist policies enacted by the football coach, D. Andros. Since this incident, Oregon State University has not exactly been on the high list for aspiring student athletes of color to attend. I don't blame them for walking out either, making a public statement, especially in Oregon, a petri dish for Klansmen. The KKK became a prominent underground and sometimes not so underground movement in Oregon during this time, and I wouldn't be surprised if there were still thousands of active members in Oregon today, like this guy, Andrew Oswald. You know, I'm just really sick of talking about him and hearing about him, and I've had to look at his face way too long making this video, but it needs to be said. He plastered racist bumper stickers on the cars owned by Black Lives Matter activists. And the worst part was that he was a member of our OSU student government. Until his arrest became public, that is, when he was promptly booted out. There has been racist graffiti found on OSU bathrooms in 2014, but honestly, is that really a surprise? Racist graffiti happens everywhere. I mean, this is the General Motors plant in Ohio. Yeah. Yikes. And recently, as October of this year, overly aggressive police officers arrested a student of color for riding her bike on the wrong side of the road. Now let's think back to our friend's tweet. Does this tweet seem like an appropriate thing to say? After learning some important history on Oregon State and Oregon as a whole, maybe we should take a minute to revisit our friend. It's easy to see why we lack diversity. If you ever have a question about race in your state, it'd be smart to take some time and learn about it. Take classes that focus on diversity and race relations, and put pressure on universities and larger institutions to offer more support and education when it comes to this subject. Aw, see, they were paying attention to our video and are doing the right thing. Now get off Twitter and play nice. Have a nice day.